Where the drama starts. Lap 30, 8 laps to go. Sandobi hoping to take advantage of these lapped cars. Poleski dives onto the right side. Very aggressive here. This is lap 4. The two Viceroys. Bill Frazier ahead of Matt Poleski. Frazier's off. Frazier hit the grass. You hit that tire wall, your day is done. Well, now it's lap 20. The Williams still trying to get around the Terrell team as he'll go around the left car and around those at the same time. At the same time. He's got the inside corner. Will he ride the curb? Yes, he will. He will get him on the inside. Nuna Maria leading us all into Moss's corner. Look at the beauty as his right side will clip the grass. Oh, a 180, no, a 360. Oh. Who will yield going into this corner? It's really not meant for too wide as it will be Gernot. Gernot will yield. Lots of smoke kicking up from that Williams car. He is pushing it to the absolute limit. 26 of 30 now. Only 4 laps to go. He's going to get the run coming out the final corner. He's going to pull up side by side with the leader. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Who is going to get there first? It's going to be...
The last 2 rounds have allowed Wood to creep towards Aloma's lead. The two of them have all but left the rest behind on points, and so the final 5 rounds look set to be a showdown between them. However, the pressure might be on for Matt with Silverstone being a home circuit for the Brit. Will Mansell's theory of finding extra time from the home crowd come true? We'll find out as we get ready to watch round 8 of the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacher. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Steph, we've gotten so used to the new Silverstone here on the channel, maybe it's time for a refresher on the historic version.
Well, Joe, when we look at the track map, the major difference at first sight is that the infield hook is missing. For some, that's a good thing. I say it's a bad thing, as racing-wise, the new GP track is far superior, offering more passing opportunities. Especially the surface on these old 3.14 miles of circuit isn't the best for providing good racing. Rather tight with only a width of 12 meters at the widest part of the track, the bumpy asphalt makes it very hard to set up good passes. Still, we can expect some good old retro racing on a retro track with a retro car. At Silverstone, you can always expect a spectacular race, and I'm sure these 16 turns will provide just that. But before we get too excited, we're going to send you trackside for the very first time this broadcast as we take you a lap around with our GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Juha Norlampi and the GSRC Lotus 79, so let's do a lap around Silverstone. Coming down to Copse, this is a wicked fast corner in this car. Pass attempts will only come from the brave or the foolish. Where the car winds up determines which you were. Coming off the corner, bring it to the right for the best line into the Maggots-Beckett sequence. This set of S's starts with quicker corners that get slower as you go. Being able to keep your speed up to produce more grip from the ground effects will be important through here. Ideally, you want to set yourself up for the launch off the final right-hander, and once you blast through Chapel, you'll see why. The Lotus tends to punch a big hole in the air, and with the length and speed of the hanger straight feeding that, cars will get a giant slipstream. Expect plenty of pass attempts down into Stowe. The problem is, it's got a pretty short braking zone. Plus, if you can carry your speed around the outside, sometimes drivers will be able to fight back on the run-up to Vale. Unfortunately, in the historic layout, it's a fast sweeper with a narrow line into Club. That means drivers will want to sort it out instead of attempting a too-wide entry. Off of Club, once again, your exit will be critical to the lap. The historic layout removes the Abbey chicane and returns it to its traditional fast kink. Passes might once again take place, but the grip of the 79 makes bridge frighteningly quick. That does make it easier to take a wider entry into Priory, where the more technical final few turns of the course begin. But if there's one thing this car isn't a fan of, it's low-speed turns. It takes a gentle right foot without the downforce to help you out with this beast's immense power. The main thing is to set yourself up for the run out of Luffield. You can see how tough it is to get on the gas. Woodcote is easily flat out, and as you come across the line, you've now finished a lap around Silverstone.
They see what it's like around the old circuit here as the drivers are now taking part in qualifying here for the race. So they're still out there getting set up and getting laps down. That gives us the chance to look at the championship, the Drivers' Championship. The Sunday Grand Prix Series is only separated by 5 points between Wood and Aloma. And again, that has been closing because Wood has beat him in the last 2 rounds. Steve Bycroft looked a lot closer not long ago, but, well, he's been falling back, just not been having a good day, and it's a pretty wide margin for him to make up in these last 5 rounds, so not sure that he'll really be a factor unless things drastically shift. There you can see Suarez and Lepisto rounding out your top 5 in the driver's standings. Of course, we have the Constructors Championship here, Steph, so why don't you fill us in on the points there?
Driver standings tight as ever, so is the team standings. Joe, Parmalat Racing Team, 208 points to their names. They're still leading ahead of Equipe Renault Elf, that's Wood and Simpkins behind those cars, 14 points as already mentioned. And then it's a little bit tighter than the driver standings. Third onwards, 45 points Ferrari behind, 72 points behind is the Equipe Tabo Chitan. And then Ali Bilad Tag Williams Racing Team, I will always struggle with that name. They are 78 points behind. That's Fraser and Kunisny down there in 5th place.
Yeah, I would have just called them Williams, but we also have some race details in case you've never watched this series before. As we mentioned, we are in round 8, and today, by laps, it is a 29-lap race. The setups are open in these cars, which is pretty important because this is definitely a personal car, although you can find speed by tweaking that setup, and drivers have talked about that a lot. They also have an incident limit, and that will become important since there's a number of paved runoffs, even though this is the older version, and they can rack those up pretty easily, so they can be disqualified if they abuse the track limits too much. Now, if you'd like to support the Global Sim Racing Channel, or if you just want to get some cool gear that you feel has our cool logo on it, well, we've got a merch store now. In fact, that store has our new beanies that you can wear in the cold weather, but we've actually had Bill insert some of his tinfoil into these. So these can double as a radio scanner, and you can covertly listen to other teams with these. So we've got some special features and some of that gear, like things like that. If you want to check them out, you can go and look for them in our merch store at gsrc.storenv.com. The link is in the description below. Right now in qualifying, Nuno Moreira up at the top with provisional pole. Matt Wood, interestingly, down in 4th, looking for Aloma, and it looks like, Steph, he hasn't set a time yet, so we're still waiting for him to nail one down.
Yeah, Aloma and Fritcher both haven't set a time yet, the number 5 and the number 1 car. Both are coming now up to the bridge turns, so expect them to shoot their lap times in quick succession. And we're going to see where Nuno Moreira really will sit once they have put in their times.
As Nuno cycles around through Priory and into the last technical section here. Here's where they'll join the track of what it's like in modern day up into Brooklands and Luffield. His quickest lap at a 27.2. Let's see if this can be an improvement, and it needs to be if he wants pole, because Bycroft just took it away. Freesia also goes faster than him. So Morera, does he go quicker? He does, a 26.9, and that puts him back up to the lead.
Yeah, and Aloma, I'm seeing a 134.377 on my screen, but it didn't count, so very interestingly. He set a lap time, but it didn't count.
Yeah, I'm showing the same thing. I'm not sure what's going on there. That is quite bizarre. Freesia now down to 4th. He's not in the championship this season. Matt Wood actually bumped to 6th out of that, but he's still ahead of Aloma. So good news for him. I guess damage limitation there, but I'm sure he'd love to take as many points as possible. Of course, Aloma could still come back into things because he's got this second lap, and with 2 minutes left, that's plenty of time to complete this one.
Yeah,
so
either way.
Pisto come through.
Sorry, either way, he would be last because 26.9 plus 2.5 seconds is still a 29.4. So with that 34.7, he would be last as Antilepisto just completed his lap, still sitting in 4th place. Here's Gernot Fritzsche also completing his second lap as they go through Brooklands.
Out through Woodcote and across the line. He's got a 27.1. Lepisto bumped him down to 5th. And a 26.9 is good enough for the front row for Gernot Fritzsche.
Well,
but Aloma takes the pole away. Wow.
And Sergio Fernandez with a 26.7 barely misses out on that first place. So not even Nuno Moreira in the first row.
Clearly, the track coming together for a few of these drivers. It is a pretty cool track today, we should point out. 77 degrees on the track surface. So it is going to be pretty grippy, but that's everybody for our field. We're in top split today, by the way. We have 2 splits, so these are all the best of the best that are racing here in these 19 that you see. Let's see how they cycled out in the starting grid. As we mentioned, Alexi Aloma up to the pole in the very end of the qualifying. Sergio Fernandez was quick in the warm-up, though. Could he maybe manage to have better race pace than Aloma? He'll be starting in 2nd. Nuno Moreira will be P3. Gernot Fritzsche will be starting in 4th with Steve Bycroft in P5. On the outside of row 3, it's Antilepisto all the way back in row 4 at his home track. Matt Wood starting in 7th. Pablo Suarez starts in 8th today with Fabian Gerber in 9th. Then Peter Konecki rounds out your top 10.
Adam Fraser puts his number 10 machine in 11th place on the grid. Tobias Gerber will be completing row number 6 in 12th place. Rob Olenek, he's opening up row 7 off the grid in 13th. Alongside him, a very unlucky Tommy Michael Unhola. Very many bad mishaps happened to him over the course of this season, so he most definitely will look out for a better result here today. Peter Mikus will be starting in 15th. Alongside him, John Atkinson in row number 8. Timo Vaskilampi in 17th. Dustin Herrera 18th. And bringing up the rear, it's Ian Haycox in 19th.
And that pole means that Aloma gets himself a bonus point right there. That will certainly help in the championship as the cars now start to grid up. This is probably going to be a little bit tricky because, well, this older starting grid here, Steph, actually goes around Woodcote. We can see right there. I have to imagine it's going to be tough getting the throttle down with the steering wheel turned.
Not only that, Joe, but it is also quite an off-cambered corner, and it tightens as it goes. So Woodcote is going to present quite some tricky start to the guys behind Steve Bycroft. He's sitting in 5th place. He's the first one that can go pretty much straight out, or rather the last one that can go straight from his starting grid. Matt Wood behind him already. He's gonna be slightly turning, but yeah, it's all about that off camera because that can really send your car around, especially with the Lotus 79.
Still waiting on a number of the front runners to get out to the grid. Most everybody else you can see behind them has worked their way out. Now we finally got Morera up there. Looks like Fernandez finds his way to the grid. Time running out, so Aloma, Freesia, and Lepisto have got to get their setups loaded and get themselves on there. Finally, our pole sitter now lined up. That's the last of them. So the engines start to rev as the lights come up here for round 8 in the Sunday Grand Prix series. Green flag is out off the line. How is Aloma this week? He's actually very good, and he starts to stretch away from Fernandez. Finally has these starts down behind them. Into third place, Gernot Freesia with a great start around the outside of Morera, but Morera's going to fight back through the first corner. Everybody else cycling through Copse, and it's a clean start.
Yeah, everyone so far so clean. A little bit of a 3 wide there going into Maggots, as there are a few cars going a little bit wide through Beckett's, and that's someone spinning in the background. That was Suarez, keeps his car together. Now there's a little bit of a gap behind Fabian Gerber in 9th place.
Oh, after such a good qualifying for the number 19, that was not good behind him. Mikus actually goes off a little bit. You can see in the background as well, with more 3 wide in the back of the pack as they come up to Stowe. They've got to get this settled out between Heroder and Suarez up at the front of that group. They're still side by side as they come down to Vale, and this is a quick corner into Club.
We're using here the fast version of this track, and that is much better for the Lotus 79, as Unhola still side by side with Rob Olenek for 10th place.
Boy, it really is chaotic in the back of the field. It's the front that is all line astern, essentially. You can see as we come back to the front, everybody really polite up there. Olenek is our first battle, and Unhola is going to try to send one up the inside of him as they come through Brooklands. Again, this is for 10th position. Switches back in favor of Rob, who holds the inside line through Luffield, but the over-under for Tommy Unhola to great effect as he manages to sneak through in Woodcote.
Great driving by both Olenek and Unhola. Very experienced drivers, so nothing to be expected there of a kerfuffle between the two as Olenek goes wide, opening up the gap for Suarez going past Konisny on the grass there. Great effort by him, but it's still not done between the two.
And Suarez is going to get the spot with a lot of bravery there over Koniski. A couple cars that went wide. I also saw John Atkinson Jr. Look at them snake down the stretch as they can tell the draft is starting to pick up. That's Peter Mikus, who's working around the outside of Gerber. You ride on board, looking over at Gerber. Mikus is going to get the spot.
Up front, you're missing nothing as they're still back to back to back. So, all the action right now here in the midfield, and it's red hot.
And it starts with Olenek effectively. It's just a long train all the way back to Ian Haycox at the very end in 19th. So, literally the back half of the field are separated by almost nothing. You can see a bit of a challenge there on Koneski from Heroder, but nothing doing down into Priory, so he's going to stay behind. Oh, but now he's under attack from Atkinson, sending it in deep. A surprise attack down into Brooklands. Doesn't look like it's going to pay off because now Mikus is now to his inside through Luffield. Can he get the acceleration off the corner? And it looks like the answer is yes.
Normally, if you're on the outside of Luffield in the Lotus 79, there's nothing you can do about to hold your position. Mikus doing the inside to perfection, and he goes past Atkinson.
Mikus lost a couple spots at the start, already trying to make those back up. Here is now this back half of the pack weaves its way through Maggots and Beckett's once again up towards the run down towards Stowe Corner, and this is where things have really gotten a little crazy time after time. You can see them all lining up behind each other in the tire tracks of Peter Koneski trying to pull the draft, but nobody close enough this time for an overtake.
In front of Rob Olenek, Tommy Unhola, he was the first to pass him, and he is starting to really stretch away. Last lap, he was 1.5 seconds faster than Rob Olenek, so he's using his free space to very good success right now.
Yep, certainly looking good in that top 10. Up at the front, by the way, Aloma still leads, but it's not by a huge margin. Sergio Fernandez, about 7/10 back, at least keeping him honest. He's actually got a bigger fight going on with Morera, who's only about half a second back from him. And then you've got a big gap behind the podium.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I was watching the prior race that they're doing. They're always doing 2 races. And Gernot Fritsch, interestingly enough, the first race he was winning until a big crash in Cops, and now he's seeming to lack a little bit of confidence because of that drag, or maybe his setup isn't up to the temperatures, so he's really losing out to the top 3.
Behind them in the battle for fourth, Frisha pulling away from Bycroft, who is under attack from Lepisto. Oh, but Lepisto did not get a good run down the hanger straight, and Bycroft amazingly pulls away. This is not looking good today, though, for our championship battle for Wood, at least. He still sits down in 7th behind this group, while Aloma, his rival, is all the way up in the lead, not only taking the bonus for the pole, I think he's got fastest lap right now, and he'll take max points. A little bit of a look to the inside from Bycroft on Frisha, down into Priory, but unfortunately not able to get it in there. Instead, an attack from behind as Lepisto almost gets side by side down through Brooklands. He's going to have to give that one up.
At a quick look, Nuno Moreira right now with the fastest lap, about a 10th faster than Sergio Fernandez with the fastest lap now. So, Fernandez fastest lap 28.003, then it's Moreira with the 28.039, and then it's Aloma with a 28.110.
So it's been swapping back and forth a little bit here for that lead lap. And again, that is worth 1 bonus point, and with how tight things are, it is certainly valuable. As we ride on board with Aloma, looking back, is this Fernandez having a chance to attack for the lead? Potentially. He's going to look around the outside of Stowe, but nothing doing there. This will, however, allow Moreira to get back into the fight too. Down through Club. Very wide there from Aloma. He's using all the track and then some.
This is the problem with the old Silverstone around the outside. It never really works all too well because of how worn out this asphalt is. It doesn't allow for much grip anymore, and thus the outside always is a little bit more tricky to make it. But if you can make it strict, it really can work to your advantage, no matter through what turn. Just is a question if Sergio can exactly do that, make the outside to his favorite side.
A bit of a defensive move to the inside from Fernandez coming down to Copse. Didn't think that Moreira was that close, but apparently Fernandez just wanted to cover himself off anyways. He's dropped off of Aloma as they start the next lap. Could it be maybe he's got a little bit less downforce in this thing once they hit hanger straight here? Let's find out.
Meanwhile, Nuno Moreira, the first driver who posted a sub 128 with a 127.989 as he gets closer to the back of Sergio Fernandez, just not close enough.
Looks like Aloma responding now after... Whoa! And he has an off track. That's going to slow him up. Fernandez doesn't take the opportunity, though. He lifts before Vale. I thought for sure he was going to try and slip through. A rare mistake from Alexi Aloma. All 4 wheels in the grass. Manages to keep it pointed forward.
I wouldn't say that Sergio did really lift because of not wanting to go to the inside, but because he said it's too risky to do it, and that's exactly what it is through Club and Vale. Sergio Fernandez just seeming to weigh his options right now. He tried once again into Brooklands, just probably thinking 7 laps a bit too early in this 29 lap race.
John Atkinson has had a problem. Oh, and he's had contact. This was with Konecki. Get to it in a little bit as the battle rages on up at the front. Fernandez, is he going to get another opportunity here? He's just a little too far back. So Atkinson, this was heading through Priory.
And so, Atkinson performing one of the passes that I like to do through Prairie. He is gonna just drive around the outside of Koniesen, who sets up the next turn. And then Atkinson slides a little bit wide. Koniesen, he thinks the gap opens. It doesn't open enough, and right into the scene of the accident he goes. And that's a major damage for John Atkinson. His race sadly already done.
And Atkinson had to drive it into the pits. Now, there was a little bit of a look to the inside of bridge from Sergio Fernandez on a Loma that time by. That was a risky move. It didn't quite pay off. You can see he's still behind. In fact, he fell back a couple tenths once again as they come back to the front stretch. Almost wheels into the dirt there from Morera behind them. Drivers really trying to get as much as they can out of the racing line here as we ride on board now with Nuno, working their way through the Maggots and Beckett sequence. This is where that corner exit is all important. Everybody trying to get as much grip as possible. Firing it up the hanger straight. And he is getting the slipstream. Both of them getting the slipstream. Actually much quicker than a Loma. A look to the inside from Fernandez, but just can't make the pass. Things have been awful tense up at the front. Is this going to force a Loma to crack at some point? We've already seen at least one mistake, and once again, going extremely wide off of club.
Yeah, you can't do that. There's no a penalty out there. You don't get an off-track, you don't get a slowdown. And in the Lotus 79, you really can't take it out there. It is a smooth surface for, interesting enough, out there. So, yeah, Alexei Loma, for him it seems that it's the faster line, and thus he uses it.
Out of Luffield and to the line once again. A couple of them starting to squirm under power. Haven't had a change in the temperature. Weather is still the same as before. Could it be maybe wearing out the tires a little bit with how hard they're pushing the pace here?
Either way, Gernot Fritsche right now the fastest car off the field. Last lap at 28.7075. His personal fastest lap, and he was about 0.3 faster than your leader Alexei Loma. So Gernot Fritsche finally finding the sweet spot in his setup.
Another run down the hanger straight for this battle for fourth. They've stayed about 2 seconds behind this podium battle. So if things get a little bit heated, we could find even more cars involved. Matt Wood, however, still languishing behind at about 1.6 seconds behind fourth, fifth, and sixth, and not able to close. Home track does not seem to be happy hunting ground for the number 2 car. Oh, and a pass for the lead, or at least an attempted pass for the lead. Fernandez once again in bridge, trying to set it up. He goes the long way around of Prairie, but that opens the door for Morera, and they come together. Morera manages to get away with it. So does Fernandez. This definitely did slow them up. You can see that the 3 behind them are now very clearly in the fight. I mentioned this move before. Just gets himself a good run, and he tries to be brave with it. Unfortunately, with him going wide there, Morera thought, here's my chance, and the chance slipped through his fingers. Ooh, and I think Fernandez has got another run. Just runs out of straightaway. Every time at the end of the hanger straight, if he had about 50 feet more, I'd almost say that Fernandez would have it. So sticking with him, does he try it again? Maybe does he try the opposite side this time? Oh, interesting. Aloma is going to choose to stay off to the left. And this time, Herrera's going to make an attack earlier, down into Priory. Still no change for those top three.
Yeah, Loma doing the smart thing, staying on the left through bridge. Oh, a little bit of a touch once again.
Oh, and that slows down Herrera. Here comes Gernot Frische. He's going to have the run down the front stretch, covering off the inside through Woodcote. Herrera is now under attack. The multi-time champion. Oh, and they almost come together, banging wheels. Too wide through Copse. Frische is offline. He gets slowed up. Mycroft thinks about maybe trying to get into things. It's a chain reaction as the battle works its way down the field, but still nobody swaps positions.
To come back to Aloma, he's doing the smart thing, staying left through bridge because you get the run, the lineup for Priory, and it is also the faster line through that if you can stay on the inside and hold your apex through Priory, and that's exactly what Aloma is doing so far, staying just ahead of Fernandez.
Well, that changes it to essentially a two-car fight now for the lead, at least until Herrera can regain the ground. Look at the different lines that we've got running, including back here, as this is the fight between Lepisto and Bycroft. Riding on board with Antti, the Finn still hounding the Hoosier. Ooh, the Hoosier taking a peek to the inside of Frische, though. Lepisto instead trying to attack down into Brooklands, and we've now seen almost that same sequence of events multiple times here in the latter part of the lap here, Steph, and it seems rare that anybody can manage to make it stick.
Welcome to the Lotus 79 at the old Silverstone. Low grip, low mechanical grip car with low grip surface just doesn't go well together in setting up these passes. That's what I've been talking about in the run-up to this race. And we're seeing this right now. You really have to work for your passes. You can't just go and go spontaneously, yeah, I'm gonna pass now. No, you really have to work. You really have to set up your pass over multiple laps. And then you can do it like Sergio Fernandez right now on Alexia Loma. Can he hold it this time around the inside against him? Seems like yes, but no. Here comes the run once again for Loma. Next one is a lefter, and then once again a right-hander, and that's a touch, and he doesn't save it.
Oh, and Fernandez into the wall. Almost caught it back, and that's going to be the end of his race as he takes a tow. Was that contact hurt Aloma, though? We're watching the replay, just the slightest of touches. And Herrera, who sneaks through, actually takes advantage of that because he's just moved into the lead now. We'll go to that replay in a second. We're watching Aloma's perspective. Was this netcode, though?
I think it was ever so slight netcode between the two. Let's have a look. Yeah, I would say so.
From that angle. And then look at this. Either with hurt momentum or a damaged car, Herrera uses it to great effect to get to the inside through bridge, but unlike Fernandez, Herrera stays in front. Brilliant stuff from Nuno. I was watching him as they went too wide, Steph, and I thought he's got to be licking his chops watching these two do those dangerous moves.
Yeah, you know it's hard. As said, it's hard to set up these passes. You really have to work for it, and I think Fernandez got a little bit impatient and just tried to force something that wasn't really going to be. He tried to squeeze Aloma there out of Stowe. Didn't really work, and then kind of like paid the price for it for trying to squeeze him a second time through Vale. It's sad that it ended like this. Also have to say Aloma and Moret are both extremely lucky that Fernandez's car was shooting for that gap between the two, because that could have been a much bigger accident than it was in the end.
Watching the fight behind Frische here, that's still Bycroft and Lepisto. Now, interestingly, I noticed that Frische almost was able to get by Aloma at one point, and I thought maybe Alexi had some damage on the car and was down on top speed, but since then, it almost looks like the Finn is doing okay.
Look at Nuno Moreira, 127.548, meaning he's only about 6/10 of his qualifying time, as the battle for P8 is going off. Mikael Unhola going around the inside of Fabian Gerber makes it stick through cups. That's 8th place for him.
Two familiar names here on the Global SimRacing Channel swapping spots. So Tommy having a little bit of a better day today here in the top spot. Oh, and Frisha, did he get a Loma? I think he did. I think he is down on top speed because that happened down the hangar straight, and look at how cluttered it's getting back there. Bycroft also looking to try and get by. And Moreira hasn't run away as well. Loma looking for something coming through club, but it's not there. Behind him, Steve Bycroft, who's been under pressure from Lepisto, starting to gain, but now they have to get on the binders as they slow up for Priory. Once again, the slight inside move there from Lepisto. Bycroft having none of it. And this is a boon for Matt Wood. He has now caught this group, and I wonder if he's seen Alexia Loma slipping down the order on his timing and scoring. Is he aware that his rival could be damaged?
I'm pretty sure that he has seen Aloma slip down from first now to third. Maybe he knows that, or maybe he thinks he knows that it's due to damage. Maybe he just maybe he has a bad run right now. You never know with these cars, but I'm pretty sure that Matt Wood is on top of the situation right now.
A little bit of a poor exit out of Chapel from Bycroft, but he certainly seems to be quick in a straight line. Is he quick enough to catch up to Aloma? Answer is no this time around. Could be a matter of time, though. They're just past halfway in this race, so there's still plenty of that time for him to try and get by Aloma. He's looking like Alexi had plenty of points over his rival. Suddenly things going south incredibly quickly.
Interestingly enough, we don't even have a comparison for Aloma, what his top speed would be in the draft, because it's the first time that he's actually driving in the draft. So all I can say, his top speed is only 3 kilometers per hour faster in the draft than it was with him driving up front.
And across the line one more time. Continue to see Lepisto poke and prod on Bycroft, just not able to make anything stick. This is where it's going to be important, though, because they're coming up to that hangar straight again. Bycroft needs to get a little bit closer than that to Aloma if he wants anything to happen. Alexi trying to do as much as he can to separate himself before they get to this long straightaway, and I think he's managed to get the gap that he needs.
Gernot Fritsch had a 260 kilometers per hour, Bycroft 265, and then it was Aloma with only 252 kilometers an hour, so he's about 15 or so kilometers off of the guys around him who are also in the draft. So most definitely Aloma hurting a little bit, but we know that he always drives with a little bit more downforce than the other around him, so he is still quite competitive through the turns. Just once he gets up to the hangar straight, that's where he's really losing time.
And despite Nuno Moreira looking like he wasn't going to be able to pull away initially, since he made the pass, he's now stretched it to about 1.1, 1.2 seconds over Gernot Frische. So it's looking good for the number 6 to potentially be able to take a victory, having started on the second row today. I'm sure he'll take that. Not missing much in the middle of the pack, as actually it's interesting to look at the difference between 6th and 7th. I talked about Matt Wood falling away and now gathering it back together. Adam Frazier is a whole 11 seconds behind. It's the haves and the have-nots currently. The top 6 really just blasting the rest of the field.
Yeah, and then it's a little bit of a peg, or nearly a peg, all the way down to 11th place, and that's another 13 seconds back to Peter Mikus, who is himself nearly 5.5 seconds ahead of Fabian Gerber, who is leading the rest of the field. So a few battle groups are forming up, and yeah, in between the groups there's a big no man's land.
Oh, I think Bycroft might have something on Aloma. He had a look down through bridge. That's another spot where the speed starts to get pretty high, and it looks like the number 5 is hurting.
Whoa.
Oh, around the outside this time from Lepisto. Seeing if he could get the inside for Luffield, maybe, and he just might have it. He's given space at the apex from Bycroft. Ooh, that was a lot closer than what we've seen before from the Finn.
Yeah, Bycroft with a big mistake out of priority, going sideways. That opens up the gap for Anti-Lepisto, but not able to do anything. With that chance, also he missed the first apex there a little bit through Brooklands, which meant that he was sliding past, nearly even past Steve Bycroft's line. So Bycroft still in 4th place, and I'm not sure what to think right now, but Alexi Loma, yes, he's losing very much time down the hanger straight, but through Megat's, Beckers, and Chapel, he is gaining quite a lot, even on Gernot Fritzsche ahead of him. So I wouldn't even say that he's out of the top 3 window right now.
He's doing a great job with what he's got, and I think Konecki just had an issue. Looks like he is off track between Brooklands and Luffield.
You are very much right there, Joe, as we take you to replay of what happened with the Williams driver. A little bit too early on the throttle and spins himself right into the scene of the accident. Peter Konecki loses 1 position to Timo Vaskilampi, now in 17th place.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that a credit to the skill of this top split. We've only lost 2 of our 19 drivers, Atkinson and Fernandez. Otherwise, 17 of the 19 starters still running. As we come back to Suarez and Olenek, we were watching them earlier on before we had to be pulled away by the exciting battles up for the lead. This mid-pack fight, Olenek, who's been fighting for the championship and looking very good for the championship in the Lotus 49 series, not quite as good today here in the Lotus 79. Must like the lower downforce car a little bit more. Still being chased by Suarez down through Copse, but Pablo certainly not in attacking position. As good as his qualifying was, putting it in 8th position, he's now in 11th, so he's fallen down some and, well, hasn't really climbed back up since.
Yeah, don't forget he had that first lap near spin through Maggots, Beckett, and Chapel, which dropped him to about 15th place, so going from that, he once again gained 4 positions, so still a very good mid-race result right now for Suarez.
This time by, going to be 10 laps to go across the line. Morera still your leader and has extended it. It is 1.7 seconds now back to Fritzsche. Trying to think, when's the last time we saw Gernot have a win on the Sunday races? Because it's been a minute. Now, he hasn't shown up to all of them, mind you, and he's admitted that he's not making as serious of an attack on it this season. You can see the lap comparison between first and second place. I'm seeing a little bit of damage on the front of Morera as well. Doesn't seem to be hurting him, but the front wing on the left side, his driver's left, is just slightly bent up.
That probably was from one of the 2 contacts he had with Sergio Fernandez. So not surprised too much to see that little bit of damage on his car. Also the right side is a little bit bent downwards. So he has some damage, but surely enough, that isn't hindering whatsoever his pace, as he's still continuing to ever so slightly run away from Gernot Fritzsche and Aloma. One thing we can say with quite some confidence right now is that all the gaps have stabilized between the drivers. Bycroft no longer getting closer to Aloma, Lepisto, same thing with the gap to Bycroft, and so on and so forth. So right now, seeming like everyone just wants to get over the next few laps and then start attacking again once they come to 4-5 to go.
Yeah, the only driver who really can attack right now that I can see is Suarez on Olenek for that 10th spot. They've stayed within about 2 to 4 tenths of a second. Suarez, that's not an opening, buddy.
Well, he nearly created himself an opening, and that would have been below the car of Rob Olenek. That's how close and how fast he closed in on that black car of Olenek. But either way, Pablo Suarez most definitely, like you said, the one to watch right now.
If anything, it looks like it hurt Pablo because though he was within attacking distance, he's now fallen back to about 0.6 of a second. That'll make Rob Olenek happy, but he's got a good exit here. Oh, and he looks like he's struggling now through Maggots and Beckett's. He's only saving grace as I think Suarez is still kind of too far back. Indeed, he's not able to do anything down into Stowe. Oh, and Aloma, as he lost the spot, Bycroft finally gets the pass done. That moves him onto the podium. And this happened on the way from Abbey down into Bridge. Still close enough. Maybe he could try and make a return attack. Oh, and a big slide there from Bycroft, too, through Luffield. In fact, Aloma's now got a good chance to maybe see if he could poke his nose in up into Copse. Is he that brave? Oh, and he's not close enough, unfortunately.
If Aloma wants to overtake, it is now going to be his chance through Maggots, Beckett's, and Chapel. That's where he really is much faster than Steve Bycroft. Let's have a look. Does he try something? Look at how close he gets, but decides to stay behind and brake earlier.
Yeah, we know he's weak here down the hanger straight. The Pisto doesn't look like he's going to be gaining on him. I think we got time to look at the pass now. So let's take a glance at the replay. And I kind of wondered if this would be the other spot for Bycroft.
Now,
Go ahead.
We are looking here already at the pass, but the damage had been done earlier this lap because the damage was done through Club and Vale, where he was going a little bit too aggressive over the curbs of Vale. Had his slide, there we go, gets the slide, and now through Club goes very wide, loses a lot of momentum, and that allowed Steve Bycroft to easily fly by the orange and white car of Alexi Loma.
I tell you what, that onboard, even though he lost the spot, that was a brilliant catch there from Aloma to keep the car from going around. Still ahead of Matt Wood, so even though it's not as good as he may have wanted, he's still in a net positive for Alexi Aloma, but he can't lose too much more. If Lepisto gets by, then Wood is directly behind him, and I think at that point, Wood is going to have a fire lit under him.
Right now, actually, Matt Wood is starting to drop off this three-car pack again. Last lap, he lost about half a second to the guys. So, yeah, Lepisto, Aloma, and Bycroft, most definitely right now, the three-car pack. The two guys up in front, they are well past these guys already. If nothing happens up front, they are not going to catch them again. So it's all about Bycroft, Aloma, and Lepisto. Maybe Wood can find something to light up his fire again.
And we come through the club section, back onto the back stretch, down through Abbey. Boy, Alexi Aloma might be kicking himself, as this could be the one that got away that would give him a much more comfortable gap for the remaining rounds. Still Lepisto, his fellow Finn, sitting right back there. I have a feeling that there are no country allegiances here, that if Lepisto sees an opening, he is going to take it. Coming back onto the front stretch. Credit to Aloma. He's sticking with Bycroft. He's not dropped off. Is up at the front, though. That bonus point for fastest lap looks like it's probably going to go to Morera, because he continues to grab it multiple laps in a row. Through the Maggots and Beckett sequence one more time. Bycroft looking for the good exit, trying to pull away from Aloma. They're going to pick up speed, 150 miles an hour. 160 for Steve Bycroft. Aloma just slightly down on pace. Lepisto, who continues to spy that gap closing, probably thinking about where he can maybe potentially make this move. Not missing anything behind them. Olenek and Suarez have fallen apart from one another. This is now our closest fight on the track. Also fans of Morera. He's extended his lead to 2.9 seconds over Gernot Frische. Gernot not having any sort of response, unfortunately. Ooh, he's awful close coming off of Luffield. Aloma. I think you're right about having a little bit more downforce here, Steph. Alexi's, he's looking really good in these slower corners, but, well, it's a lot harder to pass in the slow corners. Ooh.
And especially with mistakes like he just did, going a little bit wide through comps on the slippery and very bumpy artificial turf out there. Nearly lost his car over that, losing a pot of car length to Steve Bycroft. He won't even be able to do something through Magus, Beckett and Chapel. But Lepisto not very good through that section, so once again, no attack from Lepisto on his countryman.
Now down to 5 laps to go, so time is ticking away. Lepisto's got to do something eventually here if he wants to get into that 4th spot. And he could potentially be up for a podium, depending on if he could also attack Steve Bycroft. He was trying to do that earlier in the race. It just never wound up producing fruit. Down and through the technical section now, out of Priory, into Brooklands. Bycroft as well, continuing to drop time on Frische up ahead. It's about 3 seconds between himself and the car in 2nd place. Bycroft actually set his personal best that time by, though. Still pushing hard. Boy, that Copse corner seems to be a bit of a weakness for Aloma as well. Once again, Lepisto getting awful close coming out of that first turn.
Yeah, I'm just gonna guess that because the Aloma has his damage on the right side, that's why he is slower through Copse, just that aerodynamic not really helping him as Lepisto creeps closer once again, come Hanger Straight, but Stowe once again too early down the Hanger Straight, so nothing happening once again for that fight for P4.
If you're just joining us, Aloma was our pole sitter, and for a good chunk of the race, the leader, and I think he might lose one more position here. Contact with Fernandez sent him backwards. Lepisto knows it. He's been watching how he's been vulnerable. He's got the inside into Bridge, but he's going to have the outside into Priory, and a brave move holding the grip on the outside of Bridge for Aloma to deny his countrymen the spot. Oh, but Lepisto's going to stick it in a second time, down through Brooklands. Now he's got a little bit of feistiness in him. He's going to try and go on the attack here, but it's still not able to get him the spot.
Aloma once again showing why it is the better idea to not defend the inside of Bridge, but stay on the inside for Priory, because that turn is just so much more important for overtaking. Thus, he stays ahead of Lepisto, but only just staying ahead of him, as Lepisto with a little bit of a mistake there through Luffield, not able to make... Whoa, that was quite a wobble there for Aloma.
Is this going to give an opportunity for Lepisto? He's looking pretty close. He's only 2/10 back as they come out of Chapel onto Hanger. But he's not gaining. Just not nearly gaining. He's going to run out of straightaway here by the time they hit Stowe. As I was saying before, if you're just joining us, Aloma was in the lead. Contact with Fernandez. Fernandez with a DNF because of that in this very corner as he slammed it into the wall. Only he and Atkinson Jr. have exited this race. But since then, Aloma not only lost the lead to Morera, who is now up at the top, but Freesia and Bycroft. And Lepisto is looking to be the next in line to try and overtake. A little bit of lap traffic that they're all working their way through. That is Konieczny. In fact, the only car to be lapped thus far, with the penultimate lap now starting.
Because of all the fighting, Joe, Aloma and Lepisto really dropped off the back of Bycroft. So seems like Bycroft, unless he makes a mistake, is good to go for that third place.
Yeah, I'm sure he's happy with that. All he's got to do is be solid from here on out. We're sticking with this because it is the closest fight on track here in these dying laps. Aloma, credit to Aloma. I mean, he's kept himself safe exactly where he needs to be to keep people from having an easy time getting by him. Oh, that's speaking of mistakes. Commentator's curse notwithstanding.
Until Lepisto not as aggressive as Sergio Fernandez was. So he slots in once again behind Aloma, but that one was quite a mistake by Aloma, able to keep it together and able to stay ahead of Lepisto. So I would say, judging off the few mistakes we have seen from Aloma already since the damage, is that Aloma is pushing a little bit more than he's used to stay in this position.
White flag is out for Nuno Morera from third on the grid up to a handy lead. Well, it was a handier lead. Is Morera just managing the gap now? It's cut down from what was 3 seconds down to 1.3.
Well, last lap by Morera was 27.8, and Garrett Fritcher put him in his fastest laps, personal fastest laps, 4 laps in consecutive row now. So yeah, Fritcher most definitely faster, but probably not enough unless Morera runs into some bigger troubles.
Yeah, we saw the damage. Wonder if maybe potentially the fuel was being consumed a little quicker than anticipated. We did see the previous 4 laps. Oh, and Fabian Gerber has an off. This was in Cops. We'll take a look at this replay here.
And that's quite a big off for Fabian Gerber. Let's see what happens as he goes over the line. Turning in at the 50-meter board, just loses the rear and spins right into the wall, backs it in there. Heavy damage on the rear wing and also some bend suspension on the right rear. But he keeps his car together, driving over the line.
Down to 9/10 of a second, but it's too little too late for Gernot Freesia, because Nuno Morera was there to capitalize when those in front of him tangled, and he is going to take the victory here today at Silverstone. Bycroft with a well-earned third, and in the end, Aloma stopped the rot. He'll take fourth. Lepisto with a P5. Wood losing more points today, only a 6th position on home turf.
P7, though, still hotly contested between Adam Fraser and Unhola. Unhola sadly made a mistake out of priority, settling that battle. So Adam Fraser home in 7th place with Unhola just behind him in 8th.
We got a battle for 14th as well. Heroder, I think, just got by Haycox. If not, they were close to swapping positions. Ian's still chasing him as they come down through Abbey. Through Bridge. Is he going to be brave in a Priory? He's running out of opportunities. He sticks his nose in, but he's a little bit too far back on that one. And, we were right about Nuno Morera. He's typing in the chat about just barely getting by on fumes at the line. In the end, it's going to be Heroder who takes that 14th position ahead of Haycox, but that's going to be the last of our finishers to cross the line. It'll take us to a break here for the official results as well as driver interviews afterwards, but during the break, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Silverstone. The old circuit has some life in it yet here on the Global SimRacing Channel because Nuno Moreira took an exciting victory, almost a surprise victory for him, over Gernot Frische, just barely squeaking home on scant fuel. Gernot, maybe if he was a little bit closer, could have seen a win today, but it was not to be. Steve Bycroft finishes third, ahead of the driver we expected to win, Alexia Loma, fast in qualifying, fast in the race, but a tangle sent him back to fourth with damage of his own. Antti Lepisto with a fifth place behind him, and the championship rival of Aloma, only sixth place for Wood. Adam Fraser, a distant seventh for him. It was Tommy Unholu who finished, probably thankfully, with what seemed like a quiet race from our perspective, in eighth position. Rob Olenek winds up in ninth. He held off Pablo Suarez, who rounds out your top 10.
Peter Mikus, starting from 15th place, he finally finished in 11th place, some 15 seconds behind 10th place. 12th place went to Fabian Gerber ahead of Tobias Gerber, so the Gerber brothers in 12th and 13th. Dustin Herrera in 14th. Ian Acox finishes in 15th, just behind Dustin Herrera. And last but not least, on the lead lap, finishes Timo Vasculampi, gaining one position from his starting position. Peter Konisny, the last car to finish this race in 17th, a one lap down. Then sadly, we saw the big crash between Fernandez and Alexia Loma that led to the end of the race of Sergio Fernandez finishing 17 laps down in 18th, and Sean Atkinson very early out in the race, 23 laps down in 19th.
We have second place ready to talk to us. Gernot Frische joins us in the booth. And Gernot, I don't know if you saw, but Nuno saying he was extremely tight on fuel. Does that make any what ifs go through your head about if you could have maybe not lost those 6/10 somewhere along the race? You think, you could have possibly gotten the win?
Hi, Joe. Well, not really, because Nuno was, I think, still in control, and he knew his fuel level in contrast to me. So, even if I wanted to push more, I couldn't have done much better than this. So I'm very happy with that second place, and huge congrats to Nuno as well, because that's really tough to do in such a hard field.
Certainly seemed like the race took some twists and changes as it went along, because you were stuck in that second pack for quite a while until the tangle that happened up at the front. So are you surprised by a second place at all, or is this kind of where you expected to wind up?
Well, in theory, I thought I could have done a little bit better in qualifying, but when I was starting from fourth place, of course, it was really a hard race ahead of me. And in the beginning, I was losing a little bit of time as well, so I wasn't that optimistic to get on the podium. But for some reason, Alexi seemed to slow down a little bit, and Sergio really put much pressure on him. And obviously, they touched, didn't really see what happened exactly, so really bad luck for Sergio. But then it was a new race, because Alexi was losing time, and basically was me against Nuno, just like in the good old times.
It really was a bit of a harken back. And speaking of harkening back, last season, the CTC ran the newer Silverstone, and you guys have switched back here to the old one. Do you think the series will probably stick with this older version, or now that you guys have had kind of a contrast between the two, what's the general consensus you're getting from the community?
Well, I don't know. In the end, it will be a democratic decision. I personally really like the old track. It's one of my favorites. I've always been quick here, and so is Nuno. So the new version is a little bit not that good for me personally, but I like them both.
Well, we look forward to seeing how things wind up between those two. Congratulations on second place. That was Gernot Frische on our podium here today. I believe we have our winner ready to talk to us, Nuno Moreira. It was said to be like old times, so let's see how Steph reminisces with him.
Yeah, Nuno, like the old times. Gernot Frische said, how do you feel about that last few laps against Gernot Frische? Seems like Nuno still needs to get ready for his interview, so let's give him a few more moments to get ready for this. Drink up his water and be ready for us?
Been so long, he forgot how to get his mic set up, it seems. Let's try this again. Nuno, you got a copy? Looks like that's not going to work out today. So we'll talk to Tommy Unhola instead, who managed to get himself into 8th today, having qualified in 14th. Considering how tough it looked like it was to pass out there, Tommy, that's quite a feat.
Oh yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, I think I got four cars on the first lap, and well, lose time there. I went side by side with Rob for probably half of lap or something, so we lost a lot of time for back. But yeah, it was good amount of overtaking, but I'm not very happy as I made way too many mistakes and lost maybe 2-3 seconds or more. So I could have been much earlier behind Adam, and I was faster in a couple places that could have been good for overtaking. So I think I could have had him with better race, but there was lots of skill today in the race, so that's not very bad, as I'm really bad on this track, and we're not expecting to maybe even be in the top 10, so it's not bad.
Yeah, considering its top split, that's certainly impressive of you to finish within 8th. Speaking of mistakes, though, you weren't the only one. We saw a number of drivers slipping and sliding around. It looked like it was grippy conditions because it was cooler out there today. What did it feel like from inside the car?
I don't know what was wrong. I actually went over the curb and bit on the grass.
I think we may have lost Tommy there.
Oh, sorry, I think I'm back.
Yeah, you're back now.
yeah, sorry. Wire gets off if it gets hang on to something, so it dropped from headphones. But yeah, it was really hard to drive today. I don't know why. And yeah, I went over the curb on the first lap as I turned a bit late and tried to give space to guys. So I think I might have had a bit of damage, but I don't know. Car didn't feel very bad, but it was very unstable, and it looked like other guys had the same issues also. So maybe it was wind or something, as car felt completely different in qualifying also, and I made mistakes on both lap and had no confidence at all in qualifying or maybe 10 laps in the race. So it was probably wind, as track temp seems to be pretty close to what practices were. So
Yeah, it might just have to remain a mystery, unfortunately, with the race already over. That was Tommy Unhola, who took 8th place today with something that sounds like even he is proud of. One more try that we're going to give for our winner, as Steph is going to attempt to talk to Nuno Moreira.
Yeah, Nuno, you got a copy.
Hey, hello everyone.
Finally. Nuno, Gernot said that it felt to him like old times fighting against you for that win. How was it for you?
A super eventful race. Yes, indeed, it was like remembering the past, the great battles between me and Gernot. So it was fun. So that's what we want in a Sunday afternoon. So great fun.
Yeah, going back to the start of the race, the 3-car pack for the lead formed itself quite quickly, dropping Gerhard Frietsche and everyone behind him rather fast. And then it seemed like you were sitting back a little bit, watching the two guys up front fight it out. How was your strategy going through the race for that lead pack there?
In the beginning, so first laps, there's no strategy. You try to go as fast as you can, and then you start to evaluate how things are going. And indeed, Sergio and the Finn, I'm not remembering his name. Sorry for him, were too fast. But I was able to go with them, and Alexei, I was able to follow them, and I felt that I was a bit faster, but it is very, very difficult to overtake here. So I waited for a mistake, for a failure, and I had a bit some small contacts with Sergio here and there, but I think it was all inside the legality, but it was like super, super intense. In the end, I got to be at front, and then I managed till the end because I crossed the finish line without fuel.
Yeah, we have seen that, and still a very great result for you, Nuno. First, third, and then getting through that wreck somehow and gaining that first place, never giving it back again. And then, as you said, finishing on fumes. Nuno, congrats on that first place, and welcome back to Victory Circle.
Okay, thank you very much. Sure feels good, and I have to say also congratulations to Gernot and to Steve for their podium finishes, and to Alexi also, and Sergio for their great races.
That was Nuno Moreira, your first place finisher here today. And Joe, sadly, we once again have to wrap up another great Lotus 79 broadcast.
Yeah, it's not sad when we had a good time like we did today. And again, a thank you goes out to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and also to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And also thanks to the team today, Stefan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. The link is in the description below. Don't forget to head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button as well, so that you don't miss a moment here on the GSRC. The next round, we're heading to Germany. That'll be, however, not for the Nürburgring's big course. That'll be the Grand Prix course. That'll be Sunday, November 10th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Remember, we've changed now. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.